In Runescape, we know of the Dwarves as ill-tempered, hard-working people, and masters of mining and blacksmithing. These short, ale-loving creatures have been in Runescape since 2001 and have loads of lore behind them. In today's episode of Runescape Lore Explained, we are going to be taking a look at the Dwarves in Runescape and seeing where the Gower brothers got their inspiration not only behind the characters and NPCs, but also the quest lines behind the Dwarves. I hope you're all ready to learn about the history of ancient Greece and Old Norse mythology. I'm going to start off on our timeline at around 1000 or 1100 BC, talking about ancient Greece history. The first NPC we're going to be talking about is the Dwarf Doric. Majority of RuneScape players know about Doric and his long and perilous quest to mine some rocks in order to gain access to his anvils. The word Doric isn't just some made-up name though. It comes all the way from ancient Greece, and it was a dialect spoke by the Greek people, or the Dorians. When we think about the Dorian people, it is very consistent with what we think about with the Dwarves. These people are not that into any type of music or art or literature, they are about weapons. Around 1000 to 1100 BC, the Dorians decided to invade northern Greece. The Greeks at the time didn't stand a chance against the Dorians, and the Dorians ruled Greece for over 400 years. The reason why they were defeated so easily is because the Dorian people were very advanced in weaponry and had iron weapons versus the stone weapons the Greeks had. Ironically, iron is one of the items that you fetch for Doric in Doric's quest, which makes me think this is the reason for which he is named. Also, Doric is a type of Greek architecture, specifically speaking with the columns they use. Doric is traditionally a more basic column in comparison to the other two more popular columns, Ionic and Corinthian. These type of columns are still used today in buildings. The history of the Dwarves comes directly from Germanic mythology or Norse mythology. The etymology, or the meaning of the word dwarf throughout history has changed quite significantly. There is no correlation with the word dwarf ever relating to a short being. Certain translations identify the roots to say damage or demonic being. There is no doubt that the original dwarves in mythology were definitely mythical creatures, or even godlike, but there is a theory that the stories told the dwarves as lesser gods, which people then interpreted as smaller. My theory to why they're short is because of the scarce amount of females in the population and the immense amount of inbreeding that would have to occur because of this. No, but seriously, there's maybe one female out of 20, and this is true in both RuneScape and in mythology. From what I read, the original dwarves were closer in the description to dark elves rather than their current depiction. Some things that are consistent are that the dwarves are master craftsmen and live underground. It was even said that if the dwarves touched sunlight, that they would burn. But this leads us to the home of the dwarves, Svartalfheim. Svartalfheim is a place thought to contain a complex labyrinth of mines and forges. In Old Norse, Svartalfheim translates to homeland of the Black Elves, like which I said before, the dwarves were originally depicted as. Svartalfheim kinda reminds me of a place. I don't know about you, but I'm referring to the dwarf city Keldagrim. Keldagrim translates to underground river in Old Norse. Keldagrim isn't the only thing in Old Norse. Several dwarves including Hreidmar is also in Old Norse. Hreidmar being the leader of the Red Axe, and it also means King of the Dwarves in Old Norse. Now we're going to be taking a look at a quest in RuneScape that is depicted almost completely from Norse mythology. This quest is going to be Gunnar's Grund. For those that are unfamiliar with the quest, you are trying to help the dwarf Gunnar marry the barbarian girl, Gudrun. You are asked to fetch a ring and get it to the girl and try to change a law so that Gunnar can marry Gudrun. There's also a poem to get peace between the dwarves and barbarians, but that is beside the point. I'm going to attempt to tell you a story from Norse mythology. In the Valskuna saga, a man named Sigmund dies to Odin in battle because Odin was in disguise. For those who don't know who Odin is, plain and simple, he's a god. Before Sigmund died, he told his wife Hyoridis that she is pregnant and left sword fragments to his son. Sometime later, she remarries to a king, King Alf. After having the child, the king sends him to live with Regin. Regin is a very mischievous person and will try to tempt the boy, or a man at this point, I'm not sure which, to greed and violence. If we skip ahead, Regin tells the boy about the story of the Otters Gold. Now before we get into the Otters Gold, we need to learn a little bit about the family tree here. So we have this boy that is adopted by Regin. Regin's father is Hreidmar. Hreidmar we talked about earlier, who is the king of the dwarves. Hreidmar also has two brothers, Otter and Fafnir. Fafnir we won't talk about too much, however the other brother, Otter, has magical abilities, and he's able to turn into an otter. Otter. So, hence the Otters Gold. So the story of the Otters Gold involves Loki, who is always known as a troublemaker in Norse mythology. He notices an otter in the water and kills it, unknowing that it was actually Otter that was swimming around. Loki then makes the unfortunate decision to go to Hreidmar's house to show off his kill, where Fafnir, Hreidmar, and Regin are outraged when they see their fallen one. They demand that they fill his otter body with gold and treasures. In the same lake that Otter had spent his days as an otter swimming around, there was a dwarf named Andvari, who also did the same thing. But for some reason, he was able to turn into a pike or a salmon. Loki, in attempts to get the treasure, captures Andvari as a pike and demands for all of his gold. The poor dwarf gives Loki everything but a gold ring. Loki took the ring anyways, but he didn't know that the ring carried a curse of death on its bearer. He stuffed Otter, the otter, in his otter form and gave him all the gold that was inside of it to Hreidmar. I'm going to skip a lot through the rest of the story and tell you that the ring goes through many owners, but winds up getting to the boy, and all of the other characters die, including Hreidmar, Fafnir, and Regin. Now this is where the story has to do with Gunnar's Ground. In this part of the story, the boy decides to live with a family. There's a mother, a father, and 4 siblings. Of the 4 siblings, one is named Gunnar, and one is named Gudrun. So in this story, Gunnar and Gudrun are actually brother and sister. Gunnar is actually in love with a woman named Brynhild. Brynhild had put up a challenge for people to marry her. She had been surrounded in flames and hoped for the boy to come for her because he is the only person with the ability to do so. The boy, however, takes form of Gunnar and comes to get her. Because of this, she is forced to marry Gunnar, and the boy marries Gudrun. The mother of Gudrun is so pleased by this because she'll have access to the boy's gold and his ring. Brynhild won't consummate to the Gunnar, however, because she is still in love with the boy. As a favor, the boy makes love to her, and she is then unable to resist Gunnar because her strength came from her virginity. So how is this story related to Gunnar's Ground? It doesn't only have to do with the names being exactly the same, but how the ring was so endearing and resulted in Gudrun's mother pushing Gudrun to marry the boy. Where in Gunnar's Ground, Gudrun is interested in Gunnar after seeing the ring. Also, in order for Gunnar to marry Brynhild, he also has to go through an obstacle that isn't possible for him to do, which is go through the flames. This is also the same in the quest, where you help him write a poem to which he is able to marry who he desires. The obvious difference is that Gunnar and Gudrun in the story are actually brother and sister, which again supports my incest theory I spoke about earlier. Maybe not, but I'm 95% sure I'm right. Also, the boy that I talk about so much in the story is also a person in RuneScape. His location is actually right next to Gunnar. That's right, the boy in the story is named Sigurd, who in RuneScape is the man who is at the canoes at Barbarian Village, which is going to lead us into episode 2, which will be about barbarians. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video is interesting as much to you as it was to me. Leave a like if you would like to see more, and subscribe to see me next time. Thank you guys. Bye.